Hello, everyone. Would like to welcome everyone to this first community outreach meeting for the Los Ranchitos corridor that we like to call it, and for an introduction to our Jedidah Smith Roundabout project that has just started to kick off. So before we begin, I want to introduce our council member for District 2, your council member, Jessica Alexander, and she'll be able to just do a quick introduction for you, and then we'll get into introductions of the project team. Jessica.
All right, how are you all doing this evening? Everybody get food? Got food back there. So, well, my name is Jessica Alexander. I know I've had the pleasure of meeting several of you in the past. If I haven't, before I even begin, I just want to let you know at any point in time after this meeting, during this meeting, please know that I'm an open door. If you guys are needing more information after this or just need a private meeting, love to meet with you. Just email me. We'll definitely get something set up, okay? So just to start, I just want to welcome everybody to this first meeting to the Roundabout for Jedidah Smith. We're excited to kind of be able to get this in motion just to let everybody know in the public what's going on, what's coming down the pipeline. This is very important, I believe, for our city. We have some backup in traffic in that area. I know I travel it all the time, and you guys all live there. And so we want to make sure that traffic is flowing. We want to make sure that, number one, it's safe as it's going through. And so I truly believe that this meeting is going to clarify a lot of the questions that you may have. And this isn't going to be the only meeting. Just know that we're going to continue to have meetings. We're going to continue to enjoy to have your participation to make sure that your community is safe and that you're getting what you need. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to say. Let me see, just to let you know, if some of you, maybe this is your first meeting here or just kind of hearing about this, I have had the opportunity and the privilege and honor to speak with the HOA. I've had the opportunity to speak to a lot of also community residents wanting to hear their concerns. And I want to make sure that to let you know, I'm here to listen to you because this is everybody's community. And so as we continue to work together, please feel free. Again, if you have any questions or problems, my door is always open. So I hope you enjoy the presentation today. Again, if you have any questions, just please go ahead and ask. And have a great day. And thank you again for being here.
Thank you very much, Jessica. So looking at, I wanted to make sure to introduce the project team. Once again, my name is Ron Marino, Public Works Director for City of Temecula. And so I've met many of you before. And so I just kind of wanted to get, the project team introduced, and then we can run through the meeting and we can see what we're going to be discussing tonight. So we also have over to my left, Nick will raise his hand. Nick Minichilli, he is our senior traffic engineer. He is leading this project from a project management standpoint. We also have Eric Escobedo, our associate civil engineer in the back. He's waving his hands. So he's making sure to observe the meeting, take some notes for you guys. And then we also have, and so that's city staff. It's myself, Nick, Eric. We also have other staff in attendance tonight. But we also have our GHD team. And our GHD team is a consultant that was selected. And some of you came the night that the contract was awarded at City Council. And so that happened a few months ago. And now here they are with the very first concept to unveil to the public. So up until this point, we really didn't have a lot of information until they developed this. And so I'm sure that you'll enjoy seeing what's going on. So the GHD team is Lindsay Van Paris. So she is the project director, roundabout expert. She's done many, many roundabouts throughout the world. However, this is her first one in Temecula, so that's very nice. So she's our expert for roundabouts. We have Steve Latino, project manager. And so Steve Latino will be leading the project under the direction of Lindsay. And then we also have Meha Bola. Meha is out at the left of me, the right of you. Meha is doing much of the community outreach, so you'll see her name around. And like Jessica said, this is the first of a few that will happen, whether it's in this setting or perhaps it's going to be the city council. It could be subcommittees. We really can't commit to anything, but as we move along and more things are developed at the direction of city council, we will unveil these things as appropriate. And so that is the project team. I'll hand it over to Nick, and then he'll run through some things. So we'll do the entire presentation and then later get into some question and answers, some things you might have concerns about. Nick.
Thank you, Ron. I just want to make a quick note that this meeting is being recorded, so if you don't miss something, it'll be recorded and publicly available. This presentation roadmap, what we're going to be discussing tonight is we're going to be getting into the project history and project description of why are we doing this, why are we here. Then we're going to talk about what's different with this roundabout. We're going to get into the project design overview, and then we're going to get into what is unique about this roundabout, creating a sense of place in your community. And in the end, like Ron mentioned, we're going to get to questions and answers, so we'll be able to answer anything that you may have as you get through the presentation. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to GHG's project manager, Steve Latino. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Nick. First of all, thank you for coming out this evening. So how did this project come to be? So we obviously know that there's been increased traffic in Temecula and specifically the intersection of Jedidah Smith and Portola. Obviously, this is creating backups with the all-way stop sign and creating driver frustration as well as access to local residents. We understand that there's a desire for reducing speeds on this road. We've heard that that's been a concern and that we want to take a look at that and improve safety not only for the roadway users, but also for the pedestrians, equestrians, and anybody else utilizing the road. So the scope of the project is to install a single lane roundabout at the intersection. Right now, the approximate cost being as early as we are in the project is about $2.5 to $3 million estimated. And funding for that is actually through a federal grant through HUD. We began this project with the city in June of 2024. And it sounds like many of you were at that meeting. So here we stand today with the conceptual layout complete. And we are currently in what is known as the CEQA process, which is the California Environmental Quality Act. And so going for what they call a categorical exemption. And then our next steps is to submit, because this is federally funded, the NEPA application. So that's the National Environmental Policy Act. And then obviously, as we've talked about, completing the design sometime in early summer 2025 so that construction can begin. This current contract that we're working under does not include the construction that will obviously be awarded under a separate bid. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay.
Thanks, Steve. All right, again, thank you for coming out. I'm Lindsay Van Paris. I have spent the past 17 years of my career focusing on roundabouts. So there's not a roundabout that I haven't seen or a type that I haven't dealt with. I've delivered hundreds across the world, but predominantly here in California, and I'm very excited to have my first Temecula design and honored to have been selected for that. So what have we been doing since June until now? Before we put our pens to paper, we wanted to make sure that we had the data, that we had the information we needed. So we went out and we did a survey. We went out and did traffic counts and a traffic analysis to really make sure that this was going to be the right solution for this project. And I don't know what's happening. There we go. Sorry about that. So we really wanted to, again, make sure that we knew what the constraints were, what the challenges were, and that this was the right approach to this project. And from there, we went in and took what was the concept design and optimized it. But before sorry, my clicker stopped working. There we go. Before I get into the details of this roundabout, I really want to talk about what it's not, and that all circular intersections are really not equal. So all of these you see up here, I commonly hear them referred to as roundabouts. They're actually not. There's a lot of different nuances in it, but these are rotaries, traffic circles, and neighborhood traffic calming devices. They all have their own place. They are not what we are doing here. So how will this roundabout be different from some of the roundabouts that you may have experienced? It's really important to understand that one size does not fit all, and that every roundabout design should really be unique and customized and fit within the context of where it's going. This is an example of a project. You'll see a couple examples of other projects as I go through, and you'll notice each one is different. And that's because each site is different and each of the needs of the community are different. So some key features of a modern roundabout is that they are circular. but not a true circle. They use principles rather than standard designs, strict standards. So, we don't do just a 6-foot walk, 12-foot lane. We really base these principles that are rooted in safety in order to formulate the design. It takes a safe systems approach. And what that means is that it provides safe access for all roadway users as each step of the process as the driver is approaching the intersection, going through the intersection, and exiting. Same for pedestrians and cyclists. And lastly, it sets up drivers for safety and success and accommodates a variety of vehicle types. So whether you're in your commuter car, you're pulling a horse trailer or a boat, or you're moving in or out of the community, this roundabout can accommodate it. And it'll serve and protect all roadway users. So we're gonna take a closer look at some of the features of a modern roundabout. So first is a mounded central island. And that is really important. Not only mounding the center, so having the center kind of elevated, and I'll show later on an example of what that will look like. But that's really important for visibility. So as drivers are approaching the intersection, they actually see that the roundabout is coming. And it's also important for a second reason. It blocks the through view through the roundabout because the oncoming traffic, unlike a normal intersection, is not your direct conflict. The direct conflict is the car entering the roundabout and coming this way and being able to assess the gaps to see if it's safe to enter or exit a roundabout. So those are the keys of having the mounded central island. And then we have the raised truck apron. And the design of that and the size of that is really important because not only it accommodates larger vehicles, but it provides deflection for the cars coming through in order to require the cars to maintain slow speeds throughout the entire intersection. And then longer splitter islands. That's particularly important at this, on this project and for the project that we're here to talk about tonight. You'll notice that the splitter island here, here, and here are pretty short. That's because the speed limits are low. So they're 25-mile-an-hour approach speeds. This is a 45-mile-an-hour approach speed. So it was really important that we created this long splitter island and had the curb on each side, have the safety lighting to light the nose of the curb, and then it requires the driver to gradually slow from the posted 45 speed limit to the slower roundabout speeds. And I'll get into the details of those speeds a little bit later. A yield on entry. What's special about the modern roundabout's yield on entry is that it actually sets the driver up to face the direction of traffic in a way that allows them to easily see approaching cars or approaching pedestrians on the exit leg so that they can make safe decisions as they're going through the roundabout. The pedestrian refuge area, it provides a space for pedestrians to wait until it's safe to cross. You only have to cross one lane of traffic at a time. The shared use path, that allows for cyclists who may not be comfortable riding through the roundabout to get off using one of the bike ramps that are on all the corners. So they can get off and use the sidewalk and crosswalks if they don't feel comfortable, or they can exit the roundabout and merge in with traffic. And the placement of those is actually really important because we want to place it where the vehicles are already slowed to what a normal road cyclist travel speed would be, about 25 miles an hour. That way, your speed differential between an entering cyclist and a vehicle is equal. It's safer for the cyclist and for the vehicles as well. And then lastly, a landscape buffer. This provides opportunity to make it prettier, but it really does provide a separation from pedestrians and the circulating roadway, giving a sense of a little bit more space, getting a little more distance from the car to reduce that stress that some people may feel as they're walking on the sidewalks. And lastly, safety lighting. Safety lighting is really important. You need to light not only the vehicle-vehicle conflict zones, but the pedestrian and vehicle conflict zones, as well as the approaches, so that a driver's aware that the context of the roadway is changing and they're going to encounter a intersection coming up in some type of control, whether that's, well, in this case, it would be a yield. And then, as I talked about with the truck apron, we want to control geometric speed at entry, circulating, and exit. So again, we're maintaining those slow speeds throughout the entire process of driving through this roundabout. So what do modern roundabouts do? Again, they gradually reduce speed on the approach. They limit the fastest path to 25 miles an hour. Now, fastest path is an engineering term, and for me, what that means is that if a driver were to ignore all striping, all signs, and drive through that roundabout as fast as they can, the fastest they can go is 25 miles an hour. And so that's what we designed to. Our after studies have shown that the standard vehicle traffic during the day typically drive between 15 and 20 miles an hour through the roundabout. And at night, we see the same thing, about 15 to 20 through the roundabout. It eliminates broadside and head-on collisions, reducing severity of other types of collisions, reduces the number of conflict points, streamlines movement and reduces idling. So again, that traffic backup, you'll see the traffic flowing a bit more smoothly. Reduces the crosswalk distance, accommodates cyclists, simplifies decision-making for everyone. So now I'd like to get into this project and what we did in the interim. So we wanted to make sure that we optimized it for all roadway users, no matter how you're using this road, if you're on your bike, in your car, in your trailer, walking, on horseback, that you can easily navigate this roundabout. So we took the concept and we really focused on how can we improve this and how can we make it fit within the context of this intersection. So we took an approach to do speed reduction and enhanced driver expectancy on all 4 legs. We optimized it with an oval. So you can see it's not circular. A driver, as you're driving it, you won't notice that it's not a circle, but aerially it's not. And the reason we do that was 2 reasons. One, to not acquire any right-of-way at any 4 of the parcels adjacent to the intersection. And 2, to create that swooping entry deflection. So you're required to go slow. So you come in and you turn and turn and turn. You're actively driving through this intersection and maintaining slow speeds. Community-focused accommodations. So looking at the landscape areas as an opportunity to create some beautification and put in some aesthetically pleasing treatments. I will talk about that a little bit later, but both in the central island and within the landscape buffers. We minimized impacts to adjacent properties. And again, we did the fast path reduction. So that's that 25 mile an hour fastest you can go. So as you can see, there's curb on both sides. So there's no paint. The driver can't ignore a curb. If you're gonna hit the curb, it's gonna slow you down. And it also narrows the look of the road. And so it feels like you're driving faster than if it was just paint. And last, we are providing a 5-foot minimum wide pedestrian pathway around the entire intersection. So here's it zoomed out. Some of the things, so I talked about that mounded central island. This is a raised truck apron, and then the central island will be mounded, and it's mounted in a very specific way to not block sight distance to the side. So it's very important that these sides stay a bit lower, but not flat, and then the center is larger. We've got the landscape buffers, the longer splitter islands, the bicycle ramps on all 4 locations, or all 4 legs, the pedestrian pathway, and we will install safety lighting as part of this project as well. They'll all be LED downcast lighting to protect the night sky, but to provide that safety enhancement to the intersection. And then pedestrian refuges on all 4 legs. So creating a sense of place. What will the center of the roundabout look like? What will the landscaping be? We don't know. We are at the beginning stages. We will come back in a future meeting and talk about that in more detail. But right now we have the areas identified, shown here. That's where landscaping or hardscaping will go. Same with the central islands. Those won't be landscaped, they'll be hardscaped, but what that looks like is yet to be determined. Our current intent is to use drought-tolerant plants in landscape areas as well as inert materials like rocks, gravel, decomposed granite. And then we are considering public art or a monument in the center of the roundabout. What that will be, we don't know. We know the footprint of it and where it can go, if that's something that the city and the community wants to see. And with that, that ends my part of the presentation. Meha?
All right, so now we'll begin the moment you've all been waiting for, which is Q&A. Who has got the first Q? Have Mike? Anyone? No Qs?
How do you guarantee
Wait,
this?
wait, wait.
I can talk about that.
Okay.
I'm curious as to, as you say, 25 miles an hour, they're gonna drive 25 miles an hour. If you live on that corner, people don't drive 25 miles, in fact, they don't drive 40 when
No.
you say 40. So how do you guarantee that it's gonna be 25 miles an hour for that area?
Yeah, as part of the initial analysis, we did review speed surveys, and you're 100% right. People do not drive the speed limit. And so if I move over here, can you guys hear me? Okay. So with this, you can see the curve comes up and then comes back down. They are all getting increasingly smaller with the radius. And that turning radius sets your speed. And so you physically can't go faster.
I understand
Yeah.
that. I understand that for the normal, insane driver that they're going to follow. But we don't have those. At 10 o'clock at night, you have people that are racing down this street. And they don't give a crap if it's a small road or a big road. They're gonna go 50 miles an hour. Your ambulances are gonna speed down the street also. So I think when you say, oh, it's gonna be a 25-mile-an-hour zone, that's not a realistic thing for us. You're not protecting our properties, our families, and our homes by saying everyone's gonna drive 20 miles an hour, 25 miles an hour.
I can, yeah, so again, it's with, we will be posting signage, so the standard signs will be there, but we will be posting advisory speed limit signs at 20 or 25 miles an hour. So they will be enforceable. And it really is having the curbs on both sides of the roadway. You can't hit, if you hit the curb, you'll bounce off. And then providing the landscape buffer and the sidewalk provides additional separation from the private property to the roadway. So there is more separation. You'd have to go over several curbs and objects. Ron? Oh.
Yeah, so we were gonna acknowledge is the fact that we do, like Lindsay said, acknowledge that there are speed surveys out there that show the condition of how people drive today. We also know other parts of the corridor, and we've seen the realities of what drivers do. And I think knowing that information and then applying it to a superior design and being able to at least control that to a point. Now, we acknowledge the fact that there are drivers out there that may be under the influence, may be, reckless driving, things like that. We know that there are areas within the corridor where we may have to make adjustments and get RSO patrols. We may have to get, and we've worked with the HOA on other areas of, we may have to get cameras, we may have to do other things. So that's not out of the question. However, we're designing it to the best intent of getting traffic to slow down.
I promise you that as you try and enter into any of the driveways here and people flip you off because you're trying to go home, because they want to get home faster, it's not fun.
Yeah,
It's not a good thing.
and we've heard that evidence as well on the driveways.
I mean, how many accidents are you gonna experience on a 25 when there's a kid going 50? How many?
So you mentioned that the curb, the center median, the center buffers or whatever are going to stop the cars. I've seen them go over those medians, they hit the horse on the pause. And a curb is not going to stop anybody going even 25 or 30. So I guess I'm wondering, have you done studies with looking at if somebody does go over that median or does come over the curb or does go into there, what the potential impact is to the surrounding properties?
We haven't done a full study of that scenario, but what we have done is taken a look at the safety redundancy, which is that safe systems approach. And so if a person were to make an error, because we're all human, we all make mistakes. Some make mistakes and drink and drive, and unfortunately, we can't control that, but through the design, we can put in additional safety features. And so by having those reversing curves, you would have to, a vehicle would lose significant momentum hitting a curb, then going into a landscape area. And what's in that landscape area, if there are boulders or rocks to further attenuate that energy, and then crossing that shared use path, you lose a lot of momentum by going through those features, those various features.
So have you done actual studies on how far those cars can land into the property? You know, a lot of us are concerned we have bedrooms and things right, you know, near. So we don't want to put sleeping kids or anybody, you know, in those rooms if there's going to be, as she said, a car at 10 o'clock at night come plowing through our front yard.
Yeah.
So are you guys open to really putting safety and sound barriers around our properties so that, you know, it's more like a wall that stops them cold instead of the potential to land in? I know on La Paz, it's a 15-mile roundabout, and they've had 13, 15, 20 accidents there.
Yeah.
So we acknowledge there's been accidents at La Paz. That, I don't think anybody is going to deny that, you know, but La Paz having different features, design features, different speeds, different design entirely. We've seen the speeds that are generated over there, and so we are analyzing that to look at that intersection to essentially modify it, you know, and you've probably seen as well, since the barriers went up on La Paz, there has not been the accident. So we realize that doing certain things work, and we'll be implementing those. On this particular project, walls, barriers, and such as that are not part of this project scope, but rather it's looking at design features, as Lindsay has said, that will stop the driver behaviors that we have seen in the past. And so that's what we're after. But no, sound walls, barriers, things like that are not part of the design, not just from a design perspective, but also from the liability perspective of what that would do to the drivers too. So we're looking at all things, but we're not done yet is the key. Well, I can't talk in hypotheticals or what may or may not happen. All we can do is take what we know on other areas and implement them on this project.
So can you provide us with information on like 13 times that people landing in that yard was he liable?
Oh, yeah.
Liable?
That's all public information. You can make that request of all of the accidents that have been at La Paz. So that's open to the public. I mean, we, the city traffic engineers, we don't have access to like the police records or what happened, what was determined, what is the live. That would have to go through a records request through the police department. We don't have those kinds of, that information is not privy to the traffic department. All we get is a report that says there was a traffic collision. It's noted. We find out speeds entering, exiting, we find out that, but as far as the particulars of a particular driver, we don't know those things. The police do. Sure. No problem. We can come back. There were others.
Hi, I am the house right there in the southeast, And I know this may not affect everybody else, but at least the four of us, my concern is how do we safely get in and out of our driveways, especially as you talked about the fact that they're still going 40 and then reducing themselves down to hopefully 20, 25. I'm very concerned how to get in and out of our driveways. When we do get backed up, at least people will stop and let you go in and out. If they're moving at a constant rate of speed, how do we get in and out?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and there's actually one nuance that I forgot to say. A common misconception, and this is aside from your comment, but a common misconception is when you see those two yellow lines, that means you can't turn in or you can't cross because it's a double yellow, but technically the way those are laid out, they're not a double yellow, they're two lines indicating two different directions of traffic, and so you can make full lefts, full rights in per the vehicle code. I'd have to defer to Steve on what the vehicle code is, but it is, full access is allowed through those double yellows. And then you can see here on the right side, we've got the dashed yellow so that you can go in and go out. But as far as speeds and signs and gaps, so the natural thing about a roundabout is that it creates gaps in traffic because you are stopping and yielding and you're letting cars come in. So there will be gaps in traffic on the entrances and the approaches. If you've got a long line of cars, hopefully they'll let you in or let you out, but there will be gaps in traffic based on our traffic analysis, and being able to get in, making the lefts in, left out, right in, right out. That's it. Yeah, that is a concern. At these driveways here and the one on the southeast corner, they are close to the intersection, so the speed, the ones further down. But because of the wider yellow stripe and reducing the lanes and shifting people over, traffic should be slowing at your driveways rather than what they are now. Because now you drive, you perceive the stop sign, and you stop. With the roundabout, you drive, you perceive that splitter island, you perceive the crosswalk, and then you perceive the yield line. And so you're gradually slowing as you come up to each one of those individual features of the roundabout.
Question here, then I'll go there, and then here.
Okay, so I understand you're doing this, ooh, that's really loud, to get the traffic flowing. Have you done a study on whether or not it makes the traffic increased? Because we live on Jedidah, and most people use Jedidah to go from 79 south to Margarita, and it's just a cut through for them.
Yeah.
Trying to get in our driveway, the same thing. We try to turn in, and they're trying to pass us on the right.
That is, I imagine that's really frustrating. One of the things that's part of the CEQA process, or the California Environmental Quality Act, that Steve talked about is if a project is going to induce demand or increase traffic, you have to do a VMT, a vehicle miles traveled analysis. And based on our traffic counts, we're not adding in any additional roadway connections. We are just trying to solve the congestion at this intersection. So our studies show that it will not be volume inducing or traffic inducing. It'll actually be traffic calming, reducing idling times, reducing greenhouse gas emissions by helping cars from that. Keep doing that start stop.
This is for this intersection, but you go down to Margarita and Jedidah and Margarita, you're just going to get the traffic there faster, so there's more back. I mean, it backs up a city block now.
Yeah.
At rush hour.
Yeah, and so as far as that comment goes is, so what Lindsay's saying is the studies, because you asked if there was a study done, the study does not show that there would be increased traffic. But we acknowledge that there is a cut through, and, so we're not saying that nobody's going to use this roadway area. So we acknowledge that there is definitely a desire by the public to get from Temecula Parkway to other areas of the city as quickly as possible. But this should not cause an increase in traffic through the studies, but we will see what kind of effect it has on the flow of the traffic as we get this project implemented.
But you don't think it's gonna get to those intersections faster now and build up? Are we just moving the problem downstream?
No, I would say it's not moving the problem. It's the same problem that we do see, but we will have to analyze those other intersections with other projects to make sure that we're addressing other areas of the city and not concentrating everybody to come down on Jedidah Smith.
I have an idea. Let's make it a no left turn on Margarita. They won't have to.
I know,
Lower the speed limit on Jedidah coming into this.
Okay, wait, there are a couple of people waiting in queue for questions. So
Yeah.
let me just, that's all right.
hold that question, great question. Yeah, with Margarita and De Portola is another intersection that we'll be looking at down the road with a different project.
Okay, you've been waiting patiently.
I'm sorry, Margarita and Jedidah, I'm sorry.
Hi, Louis Todd.
Hi, Louis.
One house further down on De Portola, so I'm the second driveway in. And so you alluded to the fact that the speed limit at the roundabout would be 25 miles an hour. Is that posted 25 miles an hour?
No, that is what Lindsay and her team are designing to. Now, what happens typically in, I won't steal Lindsay's thunder, but when projects are implemented like this, there needs to be a speed survey done afterwards. And you're familiar with this, Louis. We went through this with the rest of De Portola. It'll have to be analyzed to look at the traffic to see how people are reacting. And then we would, through that analysis, and Nick and Eric's analysis, determine what that speed is to be posted there.
Okay.
Well,
I have 3.
We are posting it, yeah.
It'll be
so-
posted. I just wanted to get to Lewis's point that it has to be looked at afterwards, because I knew that where he was going. But it has to be posted to start.
So day,
He's indicated he's got a couple of follow-up questions.
okay.
We'll have the mic that way.
But just to address that, day one, the intersection will be posted. There will be signs that say roundabout ahead, 20 miles an hour. So generally in engineering, what we do is we design 5 miles an hour over the posted speed limit as a safety precaution. Now I gave you permission all to go 5 miles over the speed limit safely, but please don't. But that is our engineering rule, is that we have to design for 5 miles over the posted speed limit.
So in terms of that speed limit, where does the transition happen? How far down the road in each direction would the speed limit be reduced? Or is it to be at 40 miles an hour and then hit the intersection and you slam on your brakes to go 20 miles an hour or 25 miles an hour? Is there a transition reduction in speed?
Yeah, so the way, we don't gradually step down like the black and white speed limit sign, but what we will do is we have guidelines, it's called the Manual and Uniform Traffic Control Devices, that based on decades and decades of studies has placements of where these signs need to be based on the posted speed limit. And so we place ahead of the need to slow down. And so I think for 45, I'm gonna touch you, 40, sorry, at 40, it's 180? I don't know off the top of my head, but it'll be, what? Sorry. Yeah, it's a ways away. It'll be about 180 feet before that speed change is needed. And so the sign will be posted with the roundabout ahead, 20 mile an hour sign, and then it'll be reinforced again closer to the intersection with the roundabout 20 miles an hour.
So in terms of the roundabout and its design, you stated is to keep traffic flowing, right? And so a question was already asked about when are there going to be gaps, in that traffic. We already see what happens at La Paz roundabout, and there's only a 3-way intersection. Here's a 4-way intersection. And so during heavy traffic, there are no gaps. And if you have traffic entering the roundabout that are all trying to move down De Portola from either Jedidah Smith, either direction, or Inez, how can you tell us that there's going to be gaps to allow us to get in and out of our driveways when the traffic is going to be flowing continuously? If you've done all these roundabouts and all these other areas, can you show us video evidence that there's gaps that are there, and what are those gaps? At 40 miles an hour to get out of my driveway, and people will be accelerating from the roundabout, right, to get to their 40 miles an hour. And so they'll be doing 40 miles an hour by the time that they hit our driveway. How can you assure that there's going to be safety for me to get in and out of my driveway with traffic that doesn't ever stop flowing?
We've done several before and after studies, so we compare. What we do is we put it into our modeling software, which is based on several environmental factors. And then after the project is open, we'll go back and do post counts and post analysis and compare the existing results with what our predicted results are. And every time we've done it, they've been very similar and very close. Most of the time, what actually happens performs better than our models because we put factors into our models that are more restrictive than what you do on what drivers normally do as a safety precaution. So I do have before and after studies that if Ron's okay with, we can share. And I do have video. That video I showed you, is that be okay to share? Okay. Give me 1 second. Maybe we'll take another question while I pull up the video.
I have a question about speed bumps. Do they ever consider putting any speed bumps as you come in to the roundabout so that it could help them get in and out of driveways? And is that a possibility?
Speed bumps, that question comes up a lot throughout the city, and speed bumps are not endorsed by either our police or fire for various reasons, response times, and they're not very effective. The other thing about speed bumps is that they are very loud, and so the neighbors around at the four corners are going to hear that thump, thump, thump. If you just sit outside City Hall, you're going to hear that just even with our pavers and concrete here. So it's not really something we would even entertain due to police, fire, and the neighbors. Good question, though. Everybody asks it. Is there another question before Lindsay? Yeah.
So, like right now, to get out of my driveway with a stop sign, I can wait 5 minutes to safely get out. Do you have in your studies like the time frame between gaps, and once there is a gap, how quickly you can get out of your driveway? Because literally we pull out and somebody is on our, from a stop sign is on our bumper. We pull out when they're at the stop sign and they're on our bumper in minutes.
Yeah, and I think that is something that we factor in. So what we call it in engineering is gap acceptance. And so what is the gap that a person will accept as safe to enter into the stream of traffic? And we factor that up when a project first goes in. We have a larger gap acceptance, so meaning that you'll need a larger gap in order to feel safe to come out. And then as time goes on, that gap kind of reduces as you're comfortable with the new intersection configuration. And we show that in our traffic simulations that there is enough brakes and demand from the 4 different directions. So with an offset number of legs approaching the intersection, you can get weird and unbalanced flows. But when you have 4 approaches coming in with traffic coming from all 4 directions, you get the cars coming in, then the cars coming out have to pause and wait for that car to go through to be able to get in. And so that does create the exit leg gaps is as the cars are going up, and same on the exit. So some cars are going through, some cars have to stop. And so we do factor that into the analysis. And I have to get back to you on what the gap is. It's measured in time. Okay, yeah. Yeah. And we can provide that to the city and make it available. Can I show the video to circle back to you? Okay, so this was a roundabout. It's a little bit different configuration. It's not a true single lane. We've got a couple double rights. that was constructed. Both approaches along the lengthwise have a 40-mile-an-hour posted speed, and I cannot recall what the posted speed is on this road, but we used a camera and did an assessment of the speeds of the vehicles entering, circulating, and going through the roundabout. And as you can see, the cars are coming up. That car didn't yield, but everyone stays safe. I think there's in here even a challenge with the cyclist stopping in the middle of the road. But as you can see, the cars are navigating pretty slow and being cautious. And this was about a year after it was opened. So we tend not to do an analysis about right after construction because people are confused and don't really know what's going on. And so we would tend to wait a little bit so drivers can familiarize themselves. This is a very heavy bike route, as you can see, with all the cyclists going through. Yeah, because we couldn't, the fourth leg on the end is a private developer with an HOA, and they have design standards that they want the split rail fencing at all of their entrances, and they had it there before, so we accommodated that within this design. And then on the south side, that's a regional park, and we couldn't get enough landscape buffer in order to direct the pedestrians to the crosswalks, and we were concerned that people would just walk directly across because that is a regional trail that sees thousands of walkers and runners and cyclists a day. I am so sorry. That is YouTube, that is not me, full disclaimer. But yeah, I got distracted by that, and I don't remember where I was at, but.
So did I, and he had a question.
Okay.
I understand the issues with the cars, and but you haven't really gone into too much with regards to pedestrians. The crosswalks that are shown there, and it just showed on that one video, there were two pedestrians coming in on the bottom right-hand side, and they were running. Mm-hmm. Now, that's great if you're jogging, but what happens if you're just a walker?
Yeah.
What kind of signage is going to slow the vehicles down because they're busy watching other cars? They could care less about the pedestrians. They don't do that now with a four-way stop. So now they're moving and not having to stop. So I think the pedestrians need to be given a little bit of, I know you have signs on the La Paz one that say pedestrian with a little arrow. You've installed horse crossing signs that are in mid-block with flashers. Can you do the same thing on these four legs? Because you're going to need two signs at each one for the ingress and egress at each corner.
Yeah. You want to answer first?
You can go ahead.
Those pedestrians were running, and luckily the cars were slowing down enough.
Yeah, and so when we typically, this particular project has some federal money attached to it. And so when we went in for an application to do this project, there is a project description, and it's very specific on what we were asking the money for, how we can design it, what is available to be done as far as design goes in it. And I think you would agree that with the amount of attention that La Paz has had and some of the issues along the corridor, you mentioned the equestrian, the rapid flashing beacons, you also mentioned other signage that we have put up. Those have all occurred separately than what La Paz is. Also, it's been that the council is listening to the residents that have concerns. And so in the same way, post-construction, outside of what Lindsay and her team are designing, post-construction, it's not that we are going to design a roundabout, construct a roundabout, and then walk away. It is going to be a continual look at the corridor. It'll be a continual look at what's happening around this intersection. And if there is a means of assisting, putting more signage, looking at different things we can do, Nick and Eric are going to look at those things and implement exactly what you're talking about. Flashing beacons, maybe some signage. You know, as I said, as you've seen, it's not just done and walk away. We have to continue to look at it, and the council hears, the council listens to the residents, and then they direct us as city staff to what to do. So, great question.
And for the video purpose, I am going to use the mic over here. So with the roundabouts at all 4 legs, this one's just easier for me to point at. We have the crosswalk. You'll notice the crosswalk is set back roughly the same distance on the exit and the approach. And that is to allow the driver's decision points to be separated from the pedestrian and the vehicle. So as they're approaching, they only have to focus on the pedestrian crossing first, then they focus on the vehicle-vehicle conflict. I don't know how many times I myself have been at a stoplight and I'm trying to make a right on red and I look into my left and then all of a sudden there's a pedestrian there. That doesn't happen at these crosswalks. We will have signs for the exit and for the approach on all 4 legs. And we will also, we're talking as a team internally about the rectangular rapid flashing beacons and if that can be implemented. And whether or not the city decides to implement it with this project, what we will do is install conduit and pull boxes so that if they do come in the future, we don't have to do any work other than pull conduit and install the poles.
Thank you. Mark Letourneau, can you go back to the first or second slide in the slideshow, please? Those streets are backward. Deep Portola is on the left, Yanez is on the right from that perspective. Second issue is what can we do to reduce the traffic noise from traffic going through and also the light pollution as a result of the headlights, which will now be scanning instead of just going north, south, east, west. Now we get the 360. Thank you.
Yeah, so I can address, sorry, I'm not going to click through all these. Give me 1 sec. All right, so as far as the road noise goes, yes, we are directing traffic in different directions, but from a road noise standpoint, you're going to have less, particularly at off-peak hours, because the cars are going slower, they're not jamming in hot, slowing down, stopping and going, or just blowing through the stop sign. So they will be going slower movement, not the stop starts. It'll reduce that brake noise as well that you may or may not be experiencing. As far as light pollution, we are proposing the most up-to-date standards with the LED lighting that can be dimmable. So the city can adjust those lighting levels if day 1 they're too bright and but then day 20 or day 275, the lights get dimmer, they can brighten it up. They also will be shielded, so protecting the night sky, directing the light to just the conflict zones. And then as far as lights shining into the homes, we can go ahead we can go and look at that in a little more detail and provide you with some exhibits and showing what that may look like based on standard vehicle lighting, if that's something that you'd be interested in. But yep. Wrong. Oh.
So we're both talking about car headlights.
Car headlights, yeah. Yeah, and then when I was talking about the light pollution of the night sky, those are the overhead lights.
So 95% of the traffic that goes through our neighborhood is cut-through traffic, based on the traffic survey numbers that were presented to us in your last traffic survey, right? We have 180 parcels, right? If you doubled that, tripled that, it'd still be less than 5% of the traffic that gets generated through our neighborhood. Every time that the city has added an additional traffic signal on Temecula Parkway, we've seen an increase in proportional traffic through our neighborhood. If the roundabout does what it's supposed to do, it will generate additional traffic cut through our neighborhood. You said the studies that you've done show that that's not the case. Can you provide us empirical evidence based upon a 95+% cut through traffic situation that it's not going to increase the traffic anymore?
Let me clarify one thing, and then I'll turn it over to you, Ron. Our traffic study focused on the traffic of this intersection and the approach roadways. We didn't do a citywide or a network-wide assessment to look at routing, origin, destination, things like that. That's outside of the scope of this project, but I'll turn it over to Ron to talk more about that.
So Yanez Road, that has been a corridor and has transported traffic throughout the city of Temecula is what's known as a circulation element. It is noted in our general plan. It is known to be a roadway that would be available to residents to get through the city. That's what Yanez de Portola Road is. It's not a private road, it's not a local road, it is a circulation element for the city. So therefore, as time goes on and our general plan is updated and the circulation element is looked at from a planning standpoint, then staff will get direction from council as to the future of not just Yanez Road, but all arterials and how they function and connect within the city. So this particular project is not going to do anything to alleviate any residents being able to use Yanez, any, as you mentioned, cut through traffic. This project does not focus on any of that, but it would be later through our general plan update, through the direction of city council, that we would have to look at all the arterials, Yanez being one of them, that serves as a connector for the residents of Temecula. And so that's what city staff looks for direction from the city council, and then we implement at their direction.
Would the city be available to if we see an increase in traffic, to change the signaling entering into the residential neighborhood off of Temecula Parkway by changing the signal times? What we're trying to do is get gaps to be able to get in and out of our driveway. Mm-hmm. We know what it's going to be like because we see it at La Paz and the homeowners there. And we're imagining that it's going to be similar. This design does look better from a safety standpoint of people entering, but it doesn't address what's going to happen in front of our homes of getting in and out of our driveways. If it's a single car pulling in and out, it's probably a little bit easier, but if I have my trailer on the back trying to get in and out, it becomes more difficult. And so would the city look at those things to maybe help mitigate putting in some gaps by stopping the left turn off of Temecula Parkway on La Paz, as well as the left turn lane off of Jedidah Smith into our neighborhood to give us a little bit of gap?
Thank you. As far as that question goes, unfortunately, I can't answer that. Would the city be open to this or that? I can't do that. And the reason for that is exactly what I just said a little bit ago, is that the city staff here, we are fact finders. We are, at the direction of, our city council. We will take these questions, and obviously your council member, Jessica Alexander, is here. And the city council looks at the entire city and then determines and gives us the projects to do. And, so we will note your question. And I don't mean to evade it, but I can't really answer that because we get our direction from the city council. We get those directives and then we implement them. And unfortunately, this project is not addressing any of that. This project is a standalone project to look at this intersection and see how traffic can be can begin to flow and not fail in its current configuration. But thank you for the question. Good question.
Okay, I have a question before the next question. Has everyone had a chance to get a cookie?
There,
If you haven't had a chance to get a cookie, please get a
there are
cookie.
plenty of sandwiches and cookies. You will have to take some with you.
I feel like it's the right time in the meeting for a
Yeah,
cookie.
please take as many as you like.
So I know La Paz has been an issue for maybe 3 years. So I'm wondering if, you talk a lot about doing a lot of studies after it's in and watching to see what happens after it's in. But I'm just wondering if you can address the process for, as issues are identified, is there any timeframe obligations of the city to address issues that come up so that we're not having safety issues or whatever for 3 years, 4 years, things like that?
Yeah, La Paz is under evaluation right now, and we're going to take it to council, and then the residents should hear something shortly.
And how long has it been since the issue started?
Well, the barriers have been up for about a year, I would say, at least a year. The barricades, the horse was knocked out about a year ago, right? Yeah, and and then issues started a couple of years ago. So you should hear something shortly.
Is it on Jedidah? Is it gonna slow down up top?
Well, like I said, once things are, every time there is a change to the ENS corridor, we do a speed survey, and then those speeds are changed. So once things are done, yeah, we'll do it.
Has there actually been a decrease over the last couple of years in the accidents around La Paz?
Yes.
By that, you mean nobody going through the fence?
Through the barriers and the fence, yeah.
Doesn't mean that
Yeah.
you're still not
Oh, of course, that's why I said, you guys can do a,
very concerned with
yeah.
public property.
Oh,
Your private, yeah.
yeah, that would have to be requested. Yeah, we don't have that
Other than
information.
car fence crashes there, has there been quite a few car crashes there?
Oh, car, bicycle.
Okay.
Well, are there any more questions about Jedidah Smith?
Are they looking at putting another horse on that one too, and then getting the original horse back?
As Lindsay mentioned, that's going to be discussed at a different meeting. So now that the concept is here, it's been displayed in this public forum, then it'll be taken to council, and then discussions will happen about the center and options, and we'll engage, you guys once again.
And it's all gonna be done within the easement, correct? You don't have to eminent domain.
No property is being acquired in this project, in the Jedidah Smith project.
Did you look at if La Paz was a safe functioning roundabout or whatever, traffic circle? Would that slow traffic down and make it safer for people approaching?
Yeah, the La
our-
Paz roundabout is being analyzed as a separate project, and we need to take that to the council, and then that'll be known to everybody what we've been doing. At this time, we don't want to
So you
discuss it.
can't anticipate from your studies that if that was a good,
Oh, that's a different
if
question.
that was a good, safe traffic circle, it's, an example of what not to do, but also would it slow the flow of traffic down at all?
We did not analyze that intersection as part of this project, but I will say that in general, if you do have traffic calming measures at upstream or downstream intersections, it improves speed and reduces speeds throughout the corridor. But we did not analyze that as part of this project.
Well, if there are no more questions, we'd encourage everyone to take a sandwich and a cookie. And, sure. Oh, okay.
I just wanted to make a statement. I wanted to thank Nick, and I also wanted to thank you, Ron, for the work that you all have done for Portola and Yanez for helping us reduce that speed to 40. I think that's a great first step, and it would have made this intersection even more of a nightmare, having 3 different speeds entering rather than just the 2 that are currently. But I did want to acknowledge the work that you've done over the past couple of years working towards this, and certainly my family and I definitely appreciate it. So
Well, we appreciate those kind words. Let's not forget Eric in the back. He's waving his hand. Eric helped us out. And then obviously the council, hears you. And so we appreciate that. They help us, to make it safer for the residents. So Jessica wanted to say a few words in closing.
Well, I just, again, want to thank all of you guys for coming in today. I got to sit in the back and listen to all of your questions. I wrote down tons of notes that I look forward to being able to talk over with staff. There were some ideas that maybe I had that I'm going to be presenting to them as well. But we're going to work together. This is, again, it's a team effort. It's not just going to be just the council. We really, truly value your opinion, and we value your needs as well. So if most of you know, safety is my #1 priority. That's why I came in here. And so I will continue to make sure that ourselves, the council, are going to really continue to make sure that that is priority #1 for you, your families, whether you have horses or animals, whatever that looks like, children, we'll continue to do that. But that being said, not only do I want to thank you for coming out and taking your time in the last hour and a half, I also want to thank our staff for coming out here, our RSO officer, and also our HD. I want to make sure I get that correctly, because GHD, I knew I was going to do that. But I just want to thank you guys for all of your input, because I've learned a lot as well over this time, and I know this is going to be a successful operation. We just need to be able to continue to look at how this is going to function as we move. So thank you guys again for your time. Again, please let me know if you guys have any questions that I can help with or any concerns. So I hope you guys have a great night. Please get home safe through the roundabout, or that might be a roundabout soon. And I appreciate your time. So thank you very much.